Hello everyone, and topic for this video is of course the budget. Now I actually had a question from one of my favorite subscribers about a week ago asking me to comment on the tax plan or the budget. Now the tax plan I love. I think it's a fantastic tax plan. I think it could be a little better. My personal opinion on taxes, again being a pretty much of a classical liberal libertarian type person myself, I don't even believe in the morality of an income tax, of a tax based on labor. I believe in that we should fund our government on import taxes, and I would have no problem with a small capital gains tax. But as far as taxes on labor, business taxes, self-employment taxes, all these things I'm opposed to. I realize this would reduce the amount of revenues coming into the government, and I see that as a plus. Our government's too big, spends too much. They need to get by on less, and we need massive reform of our system in general. It is broken. But for the environment that we live in, just looking at the tax plan, I like it. I don't think it's the final tax plan. I mean, obviously it's what Trump's proposing. When it comes out of the House and the Senate, it'll probably look much different. As I said also previously, I think that we're in a very unique situation where we have one party, the Democrats, which have decided to obstruct every single thing that Trump does. That way, when they run in the midterms, they can say, see, Trump didn't follow through on his promises. He didn't do anything. The Republican Congress, or do-nothing Congress, they accomplished nothing. They passed nothing. Yeah, and that will be because you have to get 60 votes for most things in the Senate, and they don't have 60 votes. So it means that the Democrats can stop just about everything they want to stop unless you cave, which is what we saw happen in the budget, which is about what I'm getting ready to get to. But at this point, because you have such a unique situation, I support using that two-edged sword that I know people will comment on about how it can boomerang back on you, but I have an idea on that, which is, again, we use the filibuster rule, the nuclear option, to get Gorsuch nominated to the Supreme Court. I would support at this point the nuclear option for everything. The tax plan, the budget, immigration, Obamacare, all of it. Just invoke the nuclear option on everything. 50 votes. Now, people are going to say, yeah, but when the Democrats get in power, they'll be able to do the same thing. But think about this. If you did this and you were successful, and of course you would be because you can get to 50 votes for all these things, then you get all these things enacted. And if you really believe that these things would do good and have positive results, then you do them. And then when the positive results come in, you get more Republicans elected in the midterms. You get Donald Trump reelected in 4 years. So then he gets another 4 years. And you continue to do the same thing. And even if you get a Democrat in 8 years, and the Democrat comes in, if those policies have proven to be effective and have been good for the country, even if the Democrats now have that 50 vote threshold that they can work with, they'll be very politically challenged in trying to overturn those things because they proved successful. So yeah, they'll have that same sword to use, the 50 vote nuclear cancel the filibuster rule. But if the programs that were brought in the previous 8 years are popular and they have benefited the economy, number one, you may not see a Democrat get elected. You may get 12 years of a Republican, maybe 16. And also, another thing that you do by doing this is you continue to drive a wedge into the Democratic Party, which is right now divided between the progressives and the corporate Democrats. And what this will do is this will force and put pressure on the progressives to get even more crazy and more upset with the corporate Democrat Party, and you could continue to create this big wedge in that party and limit their ability to have a successful election, whether it's congressional midterm elections or whether it's a presidential election. So I think that they should impose the rule, waive the filibuster, the nuclear option for everything. Yes, it's a bold move, but I see no other way that they're going to get anything done. So let's now take a look at exactly what just happened with the budget. What just happened? They were not able to get anything good done. Yeah, they're bragging they got more money for defense. I don't see that as a positive. We spend more money on defense than the next 12 countries combined, and then some. The military-industrial complex never takes a pay cut. They never get deprived of money because both Republicans and Democrats are bought and paid for and are terrified of the military-industrial complex. We spend enough money on defense. So yeah, they got $18 billion more dollars for defense contracts. You know, there's an old phrase. I can't remember who said it. It wasn't an American, but it was an old phrase that, you know, we used to manufacture weapons to fight wars. Now we manufacture wars to sell weapons. And this is a wonderful statement because it's so true. And this is what we do. And we have this $20 trillion debt, and we're led to believe that whenever these politicians are running for re-election, that's all they want to talk about, is how concerned they are about the debt and the deficits. But when it actually comes time to do something, Republicans and Democrats side by side continue to grow the government and spend more money. Now, it seems to me that if you can't agree on who to cut and how much to cut here and there, it seems like you would just say 1%. Let's cut every single thing across the board 1%. Not a 1% reduction in the planned increase, but an actual 1% reduction from what we spent the year before. See, I find it hard to believe that they can make the argument that they can't live on 1% less than they had last year. Every American knows, regardless of how tight your budget is, you could cut 1%. Yeah, you might have to give up a few candy bars, but the bottom line is everyone could do a 1% cut. And we do have a serious spending problem, a serious deficit problem. And also the printing of money, people don't realize the effect that this has, but when you print more money, the money has less buying power. So it's another tax in my mind. It's the deficit tax. It's the money printing tax. It's the devaluation tax. It's a hidden tax, is really what it is. And so people don't realize the devastating impacts of the deficit and the national debt. It is a major factor, but there's no will whatsoever on either side of the aisle, Republican or Democrat, to actually reduce spending at all. And the idea that we couldn't just say, okay, a 1% cut across the board. That way there's no argument over how much we cut here, how much we cut there, this guy's pet program, that guy's pet program, defense, this, that. Screw it. Cut 1% from everything. Every department in this damn government could survive with a 1% reduction. And for them to try to make the argument that they couldn't is bullshit. It's because they work for the lobbyists, they work for the Department of Defense, the military-industrial complex, and all the other people who support them and bankroll them to guarantee their cushy little jobs in Congress. Which most people say, yes, we need term limits. Well, I want to inform you folks of something in case you didn't know it. We already have term limits. Not that I would be opposed to a term limit bill, but the fact of the matter is we have the ability to term limit these people every 2 years or every 6 years in the Senate. We simply don't do it. When the election 2018 comes around, I'll be doing a series of videos on exactly my thoughts on that particular subject, but just wanted to bring it up here because I know it's something people will cross their mind as they're watching this video. People say, oh, you need term limits. And the only thing bad about term limits is you will have people like Justin Amash, Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, and a few others. It's about 3 or 4% tops in the Congress. But 96 to 97% of members of Congress should be term limited. And they could be term limited at the ballot box every 2 or 6 years. So when you want to find who is to blame for these gutless, cowardly, corrupt politicians, we have to look in the mirror. We're the ones who keep reelecting them. We could throw the whole damn bunch out. Every 2 years we could throw out the Congress. And every, well, not the entire Congress, 1/3 of the Congress. So, yeah, it would take 6 years to throw out the entire Congress. 3 election cycles. But 90-something% of politicians get reelected over and over and over again, and then people complain about what they do. So, if you're out there voting for incumbents, unless they're one of that 3% that actually deserve to be reelected, you only have yourself to blame. So let's take a look at the budget. What a disaster. What a freaking disaster. And everybody's upset about it. All my favorite YouTube channels that I watch, everyone is, I'm in the same boat with everybody. You know, I agree with everybody. I was watching the Piper report last night, and he made an excellent case, and I agree with him 100%. I mean, it's frustrating. It's mind-boggling. And, you know, to see Schumer and Pelosi out there smiling with Marco Rubio and John McCain standing right next to him, smiling ear to ear, it's sickening, man. It makes you just want to go vomit. Sorry if you were eating. So, anyway, it was a big loss. Let's see. Still funding Planned Parenthood. Thank you, Ivanka. Thank you very much, Ivanka, for inspiring that one. I'm sure she was behind making sure that we didn't get any cuts there, along with a lot of her friends, John McCain and company. Still funding Planned Parenthood, the organization which is in the baby parts selling business. Wonderful. Fantastic. Republicans always talk about cutting Planned Parenthood. They got the White House. They have both houses of Congress. They're going to continue funding Planned Parenthood fully. Sanctuary cities. Oh, yes. We're going to keep funding sanctuary cities as well as refugee resettlements. Are we going to build a wall? Hell no. Not going to build the wall. Hell no. No money for the wall. No, no, no. Republicans will not find any money for that wall. That was a deal breaker there. Couldn't have the wall. No way. But we will, the Republicans will still find a way to fund sanctuary cities and refugee resettlements. Fantastic job. Of course, the EPA, an agency that should have been abolished a long time ago, don't need it at the federal level. The states have their own environmental policies that they can implement, and we really don't need a federal EPA, especially with the overreach we've seen from the EPA. Fully funded the EPA. Thank you, Republicans. You control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and you gave us at least another 5 months, but it'll never end, of the EPA. The Republicans can't build the wall. Hell no. Can't cut anything from the defense budget, but they'll fund that EPA. You're damn skippy. Oh boy. DoddFrank. Still going to keep DoddFrank around. It's a disaster. Hasn't done a damn thing. It doesn't even address the real issues. Donald Trump's talking about he is open to not necessarily breaking up the banks, but some actual reform, which I've heard some of his ideas, which are pretty good, but none of that will actually happen. No, no, no. We're going to keep DoddFrank. And we're going to keep funding the arts. That's amazing. You know, I'm a musician. Been doing it for all my adult life, making money on the side, playing music, doing things like that with all my friends. You know, there's people out there. I have a friend who's an artist. He paints things and goes and sells his paintings. I'm all for the arts. I strongly support the arts. But I never will, in my mind, be able to understand why we fund arts. Especially when you see some of the stuff that we're told is art. Some of the horrible, disgusting shit we're told is art. We're funding that. Never in my life, in any band I've ever played in, has any government official ever come up and given us money. You know, we get paid by charging money at the door or by the bar owner paying us money for playing or what have you. Funding the arts. If your art is good, regardless of what type of art may be, it will sell. If it sucks, it won't. Find a job. Should never be funding the arts. All this kind of shit. $20 trillion debt. It's a crisis. Yet we got money for the arts, Planned Parenthood, EPA, $18 billion increase in defense spending. Homeland Security should be abolished. Don't even need Homeland Security. What the hell have they done? Nothing. Nothing good. Yes, so, I mean, it's just, I'm like everyone else. I mean, I just can't wrap my mind around how we could, you know, the Republicans, they come out at every election, oh, you know, give us the House, give us the Senate, and we'll really take care of business. You put the bastards in, and what do? This is why they can never hold on to it, because they don't deliver, and then they wonder when they get bounced. You know, and a lot of this is a failure on the part of I mean, really, 3 people. Reince Priebus, whoever his name is, He's lame. He's horrible. He's failed at every measure because he's supposed to be the guy working with Paul Ryan, who's a disaster, and then the Republican whip. Those three people are supposed to be the guys that go out there and put all these bills together. They're supposed to be the guys that got and find a consensus and get the votes. They've made a disaster of the Obamacare repeal, which we're still funding, by the way. Still funding Obamacare. That's absolutely correct. That's another thing. We're still funding Obamacare. 8 years they told us, well, elect us, Republicans, and we'll get rid of Obamacare. You know what? Here you had your chance. Couldn't get it done. And now they've stumbled a second time. They couldn't get anything done with the budget. And it's because there's a failure of leadership. There's a lack of courage. Paul Ryan needs to give Marine Le Pen a call and ask her if he can borrow her nuts. She doesn't need them. She's a female, but she's obviously got far more nuts than he has, and maybe she'll loan them to him. Because Paul Ryan is, in my lifetime, maybe the worst speaker I've ever seen. Not the most corrupt, maybe, but he's the most incompetent. I've never seen a speaker that just can't get anything done without completely capitulating, which is what they did. The budget was a loss, and they didn't even get the budget. They got an extension for 5 months. They'll be right back to this same place as they were before, and they'll cave again. Because it's anyone knows the story. It's very, very simple. If a bully comes up and gives you some shit, if you fight the bully, you may lose. But as long as you make sure that he knows when it's over that he was in one, and he gets a few bruises along the way, he won't screw with you anymore. And I'm not saying that fighting the Democrats won't cost you some political capital, but at least ways they'll know they've been in one. But we don't even fight them. We just roll right over. Paul Ryan is a slime ball. The Republicans have no backbone whatsoever. They're horrible. They're freaking horrible. Donald Trump is getting no help. So I urge you to pay very close attention to your representative, to your senator. And when the next elections come up, make sure that you don't elect another rhino. Please. So, again, I'm like everyone else, very disappointed. I just can't believe it. And as I said in a video a couple weeks ago, you know what? Waive the filibuster rule in the Senate, pass everything with 50 votes, and do the government shutdown. It's been proven over time in history that the government shutdown, that as long as you handle it correctly, the party in power usually wins that fight. They usually win that fight. But here we are, the party in power, both houses of Congress and the White House. The Republicans know this fact as well, and what do? They cave. They won't even have the fight. The Democrats have no problem. I absolutely guarantee you. Obama did it, Clinton did it, and the Republicans won't do it. I think Donald Trump would do it. He's signaling now that we need a government shutdown, that he would be thinking it's going to happen in September. No, it should happen now. Because now you've just given the Democrats more firepower. They know you will cave. Weakness gets you nowhere, especially with these people. You can't outsmart and outmaneuver Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and that freak show. It's just frustrating, man. That's all I got. Y'all take care. We'll be back tomorrow. Bye.